Good evening and welcome to NTD UK News. I'm Stuart Lees and here are today's top stories. We'll be hearing from the CEO of the British Beer and Pub Association about her hopes for the Great British Pub. Britain's world #1 shooter Amber Hill withdraws from the Tokyo Olympics after testing positive for COVID-19. And Liverpool loses its World Heritage status in a decision the city's mayor says is incomprehensible. The CEO of the British Beer and Pub Association tells us about how the pub is at the heart of British society and the impact of the lockdowns. Here's NTD's Jane Well with more.
Pubs fully open again hint to a sense of normality. While many pubs didn't make it through the lockdown, the CEO of the British Beer and Pub Association says she's hopeful things will start to look better.
But things are reopening and looking more positive now. What's the feeling among your members?
Well, the pandemic has been devastating for the beer and the pub sector, and the Great British Pub is very much part of our culture, it's part of our communities, part of our fabric of society. So it wasn't just the economic impact that we felt throughout this crisis, it was the removal of that social interaction, that place that we convene together, that we know as the Great British Pub, and it really has a devastating impact throughout the crisis. We've lost 5%, that's 2,300 of our pubs already in 2020, and we've operated, of course, in 2021 with already the restrictions for half of the year, so we suspect that that number may climb, but we're hopeful now that things are beginning to look a bit better.
A lot of pubs haven't made it through, but how long will it take for these pubs, the British pub industry, to recover from all this?
Well, we've been operating under restrictions now and lockdowns, I have to say, for the last 18 months, and it's going to take at least that time, if not longer, to make good the losses, pay down the debt, and get back to viable trading levels again. It will take time to build back that confidence. It will take time to rebuild our economy again.
Pubs are a place that have historically brought communities together and are still a part of our social fabric.
Well, the Great British Pub is the original social network, and it is one of the few places that we still meet physically now as people. It's a place where we celebrate life, where we also celebrate the passing of people we love. It's where we meet the people that we fall in love with, and it's where we go when we have a broken heart. It is the hub that brings our communities together, where we stave off loneliness. It might be the only conversation that some people have in a day when they go to their local, and they perhaps have a conversation with a bartender or a friend that they only see when they go there. It is so much more than just the jobs that we create, the wealth that we contribute to the economy. It is that coming together, bringing of a community, supporting charities and supporting one another. And we all need a lot of help as we reconnect and heal, because it has touched all of us in some way. And we hope that when the pub goes back to being at the heart of communities and the heart of the high streets up and down the country, that we'll all begin to feel a lot better.
That was Emma McClarking speaking, CEO of the British Beer and Pub Association. To the Olympics now. Team GB's Tokyo Olympics delegation is down by 1 due to a positive case of COVID-19. Britain's world #1 shooter Amber Hill has withdrawn after testing positive before departing for Japan. The 23-year-old was due to compete in the Women's Olympic skeet on Sunday and Monday. She says she is absolutely devastated after 5 years of training and preparation. She was the most experienced athlete on the British shooting team, winning silver at the 2018 Commonwealth Games. Team GB say they will not select a replacement. And in other news, 6 other British athletes, however, will not be missing out. The 6 members of Britain's track and field team, along with 2 staff members, were identified as close contacts to an individual who tested positive for COVID-19 on their flight to Japan. The British team's chef de mission says despite rules to isolate, the 6 will still compete in the Games.
Chef de mission Mark England says British athletes will not miss out on competing at the Tokyo Olympics despite COVID-19 measures. There are currently 6 British athletes isolating in Tokyo.
Absolutely, every single one of those athletes will fairly shortly finish their isolation, join their group, and will be in competition.
England says he's confident British athletes can train without anxiety in Tokyo during the Olympics. He says Team GB's training facility is next to Tokyo Bay, with a great view and fresh air.
British bubble is exclusive. We have our own environment. We have our own living environment which we have secured. It's got a big footprint around it, so British athletes can enjoy that kind of semi-bubble in a really, really positive way.
On Tuesday, the Tokyo 2020 Organising Committee chief said they do not rule out cancelling the Games if COVID cases rise. But England says, with the Games set to begin on Friday, cancellation is not up for discussion for the British team. He says the whole team is excited for the opening ceremony and he is confident it will be a wonderful Olympic Games. Natalia Nutting, NTD News.
Prime Minister Boris Johnson is facing fire after claims he was reluctant to impose a second lockdown because the virus was only affecting those over 80. NTD's Joy Duguid has more on this.
Dominic Cummings, the Prime Minister's former right-hand man, said on Tuesday that Boris Johnson was reluctant to tighten restrictions last autumn because the people who are dying are essentially all over 80. Cummings showed the BBC his WhatsApp conversations with Johnson, in which the Prime Minister appeared to say, "Get COVID and live longer," because the ages of most COVID victims were above life expectancy. At Prime Minister's questions, Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer urged Johnson to apologise.
Remind the Prime Minister, over 83,000 people aged 80 or over lost their lives to this virus. Everyone leaving behind a grieving family and loved ones. So will the Prime Minister now apologise for using those words?
Johnson, who is isolating at his country retreat, didn't deny making the comments, but insisted the government was making incredibly tough balancing decisions at the time.
Nothing I can do can make up for the loss and the suffering that people have endured throughout this pandemic. And there will, of course, be a public inquiry into what has happened. But I would just remind the right honourable gentleman, when he goes back over the decision-making processes that we had in those very, very difficult and dark times, that these are incredibly tough balancing decisions that you have to take.
The Prime Minister went into isolation on Saturday after coming into contact with Health Secretary Sajid David, who tested positive for COVID. On Wednesday, shortly after Prime Minister's questions, Sir Keir Starmer was also forced to self-isolate after one of his children tested positive. Joy Duguid, NTD News.
Liverpool has been deleted from UNESCO's World Heritage List. The UN body says developments such as the new Everton Stadium threatened the value of the city's waterfront. Liverpool City Council says the decision is incomprehensible. NTD's Eddie Aiken brings us this report.
Liverpool was named a World Heritage Site by UNESCO in 2004, joining landmarks such as the Taj Mahal and the Egyptian pyramids. But on Wednesday, following a secret ballot, the World Heritage Committee voted to remove Liverpool from the list. UNESCO officials said new developments in and around the site, including Everton Football Club's new stadium, have resulted in serious deterioration and irreversible loss of attributes.
We don't want to block development, but it really needs to be aligned with the listing of the site, and that apparently failed to align that in Liverpool, despite the dialogue we had with the city over the years, and that is very regretfully for me.
Newly elected Mayor of Liverpool, Joanne Anderson, says she found the delisting incomprehensible.
It's quite difficult for me to comprehend how UNESCO would rather have us have an empty dock site rather than the Everton Stadium at Bramley Moor Dock. Thank you for everyone for your support, and we hope to continue to try and maintain our relationship with UNESCO because we value our heritage in this city.
The government said, "We're extremely disappointed in the decision and believe Liverpool still deserves its World Heritage status, given the significant role the historic docks and the wider city have played throughout history." Liverpool City Council says it will appeal the decision. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
The Royal Mint has delivered record profit for the financial year. It credits special edition coins honouring music legends such as David Bowie and The Who with attracting new customers. It announced nearly £13 million profit on Wednesday for the 2020 to 21 financial year. It attributes the success to increased investment in precious metals, sales of historic coins and exclusive masterwork pieces that brought in sales in the US and Asia particularly. A coin weighing almost 10 kilos to mark the Queen's 95th birthday also drove up sales. The Royal Swan Census is back after a year off due to the pandemic. Dating back to the 12th century, swan upping tallies swans and in particular their young cygnets, all claimed by the Queen. NTD's Al Rhodes has the story.
The annual swan-upping ceremony is carried out on the River Thames. Royal officials in scarlet outfits are counting and checking the mute swans in the name of the Queen.
Well, the process dates right back to the 12th century, where swans in those days were a very important food, and of course they were eaten. Today though, swan-upping is all about conservation and education.
During swan-upping, officials lift every family of swans they come across out of the water. Cygnets are wrestled to shore, measured, weighed, checked for disease and marked with a number. Data from the census is used to assess changes in the swan population.
Adult birds, they can weigh up to 15 kilos. They have a wingspan of 2.5 metres, approaching 2.5 metres. So they're quite a large bird to deal with.
Barber says swans are facing more threats than ever before from shootings and pollution.
The shootings, I think, really is because youngsters can go into a shop, they buy an air rifle, they go down to the river, they see a big white target, bang, and it's appalling. But so we are sort of trying to fight against that.
The annual swan upping is a popular event for onlookers strolling along the riverbank.
Well, I think it's a really lovely British traditional thing, and we've been before and we've seen them before, and it's just lovely to see the pageantry of it.
Barber says last year was only the second time the ceremony was cancelled in 800 years, the first being in 2012 due to flooding. This year's swan upping has been shortened from 5 days to 3 and will finish Thursday. Earl Rhodes, NTD News.
Still to come, friends, colleagues, as well as total strangers showed up to help those affected by record floods in Germany. That and more after the break. Thank you for watching our daily news show on YouTube. You can also watch our other programming on channel 190 on Sky TV or on Freeview via channel box on channel 271. In the meantime though, please give this video a like and hit subscribe to our channel. Have a good day.